All right, I'm live. Haha. Well, that took some doing. Had some internet connection troubles there, but it seems to resolve itself. I put myself on my hotspot on my mobile. Hopefully that will take care of it now. So anyway, I've been thinking about building a new habit, which is kind of getting into the habit of doing a few more lives, both here on Facebook and on YouTube. So I thought I'd start this week to help me develop a habit, just kind of share what's been going on this week. And then we'll see how this unfolds, really. I haven't got any kind of outcome or aspirations in terms of what I do with this. I've just got this idea that I'd like to just get into the habit of it and see what comes out of it. I'm a great believer that there are certain paths you can go down and certain things that you can do. And as you do them, then new ideas pop out. Like, my experience from, being a speaker and being on stage in front of an audience is the number of times that I've got on a stage with an idea of what I wanted to share. And then as I've started sharing, new ideas pop in my head and I share those in the spur of the moment. I mean, that's just one of the ways in which I sort of have breakthrough ideas, breakthrough thoughts, and come up with new sort of insights and new strategies, if you like. So I thought, well, if I get into the habit of doing this, one, it will help make up for the fact that I'm not really on a stage and haven't been obviously throughout the pandemic, other than the couple of virtual events I've done. But I thought it'd be a good way to kind of share what I've been up to and also get your feedback on terms of things you might like me to share in terms of internet business, what I've been doing, selling courses, ways I've been structuring my business, and also I work with a couple of friends. So I've been helping them with both their advertising. And it's really interesting actually because both of them initially wanted help with their advertising, and both of them share the same common problem, that it's never just about the advertising. It's never a traffic problem. It's always a conversion problem, which I think is a great insight to live by. It's like people believe they cannot generate leads. Like I see so much, for example, on LinkedIn this week, and I've seen a number of offers this week from people wanting to help me. Like they're sending me messages in my inbox wanting to help me get more visibility or wanting to help me get my videos spread further and wider on LinkedIn so I can generate more leads. It's like, I don't have a lead problem because ultimately, if I want leads, I can buy leads and it's very easy to buy leads. And then it's really just a question of, can you get the most value out of those leads? And that, really comes down to two things, really. One, what are you offering up front? And two, what are you offering on the back end so that you make it profitable? But that's been really interesting. As I say, I'm helping a couple of friends, and both of them I have, well, what's been interesting for me is it's forced me to sort of dig deeper and find more strategies. And certainly over this last week, perhaps last 2 weeks, more so last week than this week in terms of digging in, I came across a guy called Dennis Yu. So big shout out to Dennis Yu. Certainly recommend that you go check him out. He was one of the co-founders of Yahoo. And then I believe he's now left. I don't think he's still connected with it in any way. I could be wrong on that. But he runs a marketing agency, like probably one of the biggest in the world. And you'll see him on Facebook, anything to do with, I think it's the Vegas Golden Knights. I think, I'm not sure if they're a hockey team or a baseball team. You have to forgive my cultural mistakes in that regard because I'm not heavily involved in American sports. But anyway, he's big behind one of those teams, and so you see a lot of a lot of the adverts that are running are all managed by his association, his agency. So amazing guy. But I listened to an interview where he was talking about this, what he calls his dollar a day strategy, and the dollar a day strategy obviously says what it does on the tin. It's the idea of running out and spending $1 a day. But it's more important than that because it's the thinking behind it that matters. And this is where a lot of things fall down with a lot of people that I've had the opportunity to speak to. And it's a common pattern, I guess, across the last couple of decades of talking to audiences as well, is that people want the instant win. And people are looking for the magic formula that gives them the instant win. And it doesn't really exist. And so the point of the dollar a day strategy is that you take lots of different ideas and you put $1 a day behind them and you run them for a couple of days, literally a couple of days. So anything from an advertising point of view, if it's getting anywhere from 400 to 1,000 impressions, that's usually enough to tell whether it's working or not. So if you run a dollar a day strategy with lots of different ideas, then of course what you're looking for is which idea works. We could all have ideas. I mean, I've read hundreds of books, literally hundreds of books on marketing and copywriting. Doesn't make me the world's greatest copywriter by any stretch of the imagination. But what I have noticed is all the ideas I get from copywriting, I like. All the ideas I've implemented have certainly reaped rewards for me. But more importantly than not, you kind of end up coming to the conclusion that I have no idea out the gate whether a title, a headline is going to work or not. And so the only way to find out is to test it, is to literally put a couple of dollars behind it and see what response you get. And that's, I think, is the most important aspect of Dennis's dollar a day strategy, is that getting into that mindset of you don't know, so test. And then I came across a quote this week, and I forget who it was attributed to, but it's this idea that action by itself creates confidence, because action by itself creates clarity. As soon as you get into something, you're going to discover whether something works or not. You're going to discover, and more importantly than just discovering, the mere fact of doing something gives you more confidence. I can relate this back to, training in karate. When I was first started training, I'm a white belt, and obviously started going through the grades. And as you pass the grades, you gain more confidence, because you gain more confidence in your skills through the repetition of doing it, not by just thinking about it. And then, of course, you get to a point where, for me, I needed more feedback. And that's when I started getting more consistent with, bag work and things like this, because it's all very well learning to do something in air, like, throwing a punch out to the air doesn't really give you any feedback because it's not a tangible target. But as soon as you start doing bag work, you begin to realize that actually anything that's out of alignment means that your wrist might buckle, or it means there isn't enough power. But it's that taking the action which gives you that feedback, which allows you to make changes, which therefore increases your confidence. So, that was how to develop my confidence in the power of my technique, to be certain that if I had to throw a technique, it would actually do what I intended it to do, meant obviously taking action, in that case, using a bag. So this whole thing of just get out there, do stuff, test stuff, be willing. I had a mentor years ago always said, if you want to make a few million, be willing to lose a few million. And don't take that as don't take it on face value in the sense of, I want to go out there and lose a few million. I don't mean it literally. That's the word I'm looking for. Don't take that literally, but certainly take it from an emotional point of view of let go of needing anything or being afraid of losing something. One of the other big insights I've gained from working with a couple of friends and running their advertising is it's easy to be objective on someone else's behalf. I mean, I notice, I get caught up. I'm human. There are times where I have ads and I end up overthinking, should I run this? Should I not run that? And of course, the overthinking means you're not doing it. Whereas actually, as I said at the beginning, the easiest way to find out is just to run something. So it's been interesting, as I say, running adverts for someone else, because it's much easier to be objective. They bring their emotional problems to conversations that we have, and they're like, should we really do this? And like, oh my God, we've been running this advert for a whole hour and we haven't got any results from it. And it's like, okay, calm down, be objective. We've got to let it run for a couple of days to begin with. So that's been interesting as well in its own right. So anyway, so that's kind of what's been going on. I think, I'm more interested in what you would like to hear from me, or what you would like to discover from me. I have got more consistent with my YouTube channel now. I'm putting out a video a week on there, trying to keep it to about 10 minutes to kind of give you insights that you can run with. But typically they might go a little bit longer, maybe as much as 15 minutes at times, but I am trying to keep it very short and focused. That's also been good discipline for me, because one, I had to sit down and map out 3 months of content. So I thought there's no point just kind of going off the cuff and saying, okay, let me do one video this week and then I'll think about what video to do next week. I thought, no, let's do this. Let's develop a newer habit around this. If I always do what I've always done, I'm always going to get the same results. And I've had a YouTube channel for a couple of years, never really given it the focus that it needs, that I would like to give it, for all sorts of reasons. But it was like, okay, well, let's change that. So one way for me to change that was, okay, look at where I'm successful. And I'm successful when I plan things out in advance and stick to it and develop new habits around it. So, okay, let's do that. So for me, and you might find this valuable as well, I literally sat down, originally went on Trello, the Kanban board type things, and just laid out, okay, here's 3 months. I want to do one video a week. So that's 12 weeks roughly. That's 12 videos. Okay, so let's come up with 12 video ideas and let's organize those in some sort of sequence that makes sense. So that's what I did. So of course, they're YouTube. So part of that meant, okay, first of all, let's dive in and do some keyword research. Let's pull out 12 core keywords that I can develop content around that are relevant to my knowledge base and relevant to my audience. So I did that, and then obviously started structuring. So now I've got 12 laid out. I've already recorded half of them, so I'm ahead of the game in that respect, which is nice, and I'll continue to do that. But it's become a habit. So now it's a habit, now it's a discipline, therefore it happens. And I think this is important as well. It's developing both, I guess, having a structure to what you do or a system of how you plan things, and then having the discipline to develop the habits initially so it becomes second nature. What, again, going back to karate, one of the things that was important in the development of my skill was repetition. It's like going back day in, day out, doing the same things over and over again until it becomes second nature. And that's really what a habit is. When something becomes second nature, it's habitual. You don't think about it anymore. It's that whole kind of, unconscious incompetence all the way through to unconscious competence. So you end up going through the stage of conscious incompetence, recognizing that you don't know something. And then obviously then you get to the point where you start practicing it until you become consciously competent. And then you get to a point where you can just do it without even thinking about it. So then you're unconsciously competent. And it's really my goal with anything I do is I want to get to that place where I'm unconsciously competent at it. And of course, along the way, it's making sure that is this something, am I becoming unconsciously competent at something that's relevant to the goals that I want to achieve? So bear that in mind as well. So I'm rambling a little bit. I did write down a whole bunch of things that I could talk about. So let me share some of those with you, and then you can let me know if they resonate, if they're things that you're interested in. So first of all, and this is a new habit I started, I have these daily ideas. So within that, I'm just reading them now. I have daily ideas, and I write down 5 new ideas for going live. So what sort of topic? So before I decided to do this, I thought, okay, I'd like to have some idea in my head of the things I would like to talk about. Because until I guess I grow the audience on the lives, then I can't just turn up and say, hey, what do you want to talk about, and get some feedback. So I come up with 5 new ideas for lives each morning, 5 new ideas for offers. So that kind of ties in with my business side of things. 5 new ideas for daily posts. And then I've broken this down. So one of my strategies, which is how I focus on my advertising, is this whole idea of the funnel, which I know is nothing new in itself. But then within the funnel, you've got the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. And it's how you use those. So top of the funnel is mainly used for making people aware that you exist. So it's about being non-salesy and just sort of letting people know that you exist. So I run a number of ideas and little videos based around that concept. So I come up with 5 new ideas each day for top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. And then I write my daily emails, and I don't always send it out at the moment, but I write it. And then I record a daily video, and obviously doing a live today is me doing that. So within that, things that I've written down as ideas that I could do for lives are getting attention. So how to get attention, because of course we're in the game, certainly from a business perspective, of getting the attention of the people that we want to serve. So that's important, because if you can't get the attention, they don't know you exist. They don't know you exist. How could they ever buy anything from you or take advantage of anything that you want to offer to them? I also put down rapid product creation. I recognized this week, I was doing some research at the beginning of the week in terms of developing a strategy based on some of the problems that have come up from, as I say, mentioned working with a couple of friends. And I was sort of digging deeper into that. And what came out of it was, one of the things that came out of it was this idea of, can we gain back as much as the advertising cost? So the question really was, how do I get back the cost of the advertising as rapidly as possible? Like ultimately, I mean, obviously the idea is that it is completely self-liquidating. That's the goal. So then within that, it's like, how do you do that? So one of my ideas was that we can very quickly create mini products. So a mini product to me would be anything under 90 minutes of recording time. So it was, okay, let's create multiple of those. So then it's like, what you're going to create them around, of course, okay, you're going to create them around an urgent problem. So some of the ideas for lives, rapid product creation. Would you like to know how to create a product in the morning and be selling it by the evening, for example? That was just a headline off the top of my head. Maybe I should write that down. Finding an urgent problem to solve, because of course, no point create a product if it doesn't resonate with your marketplace or it's not something that anybody has any interest in. Done all that a lot myself in the past, where pre-internet, like literally hiring a recording studio and then creating a product and discovering the only person that was interested in it was me. So we'll think about that. Making your solution stand out uniquely. We live in a world where you do need to be unique. I would say, like last couple of days, I've been digging into Amazon. Amazon is one of the best research sites available to us, because if you have an understanding of the books that your customers read, then the reviews for those books are incredibly insightful. But you notice patterns. That's the whole point of it. You find patterns. And I would say that one of the most common patterns is everyone's looking for something new, which is not hard to understand. I've talked about this many, many times previously. It's not hard to understand because, of course, new for most people means that what they've tried in the past hasn't worked for them. So they still have a desire, they still have a goal they want to achieve, but what they've done so far hasn't worked for whatever reason. Could obviously be their own, completely their own fault, but that's not relevant in their eyes. Their perception is they want something new. So therefore, making your solution stand out uniquely, so it has the feeling and the perspective of being new. So we talk about that. Keeping everything simple. I have noticed that, and I am a habitual overthinker. It's certainly part of my personality, and I have to combat that on an almost daily basis. I haven't found anything that's kind of a magic pill with regard to that, other than the discipline of making sure I prevent myself being aware of it and stop myself from doing it too much. So keeping everything simple. There's a simplicity to, again, I look for patterns. I look for patterns in human behavior because that's relevant to both helping people and therefore designing messages that attract people so that I can help them. But there's simplicity in everything. So my friend Errol, who sadly passed away last October, I think I've mentioned him before, was an extraordinary entrepreneur, multi-billionaire, multiple industries, very successful. But he kept everything really simple. His whole approach to planning and project management was incredibly simple, to the point where, and this is how I know too many people overthink, to the point where when I've seen him share that principle, these ideas with audiences, they kind of look at him and you can see them thinking, can't be that simple. And I was the same when he first shared it with me. I was like, can't be that simple. But it is. It's not that we can't make things complicated. Of course we can make things complicated. But there has to be a thread of simplicity through it all. So as long as you can stay focused on keeping everything simple, and therefore to keep everything simple is based on how you think, the beliefs that you have. So if you adopt the beliefs of top entrepreneurs who have a pattern of keeping things simple, then it makes life easier in terms of taking action and getting things moving. So those are things I could talk about. Also, repeat myself here, creating products rapidly, finding ideas for products, analyzing a sales page. So I thought that could be something we could do. We could pull up a sales page in a niche, in any given niche. One of the things I want to do over the next 6 months is sort of branch out into more niches. There are certain areas of life that I have a real passion for and a real interest in. And I thought, maybe I could leverage those and kind of combine my influence and marketing skills with some of these other niches and act as an affiliate for products, which I will buy first and make sure they're decent products and that they solve the problem they tell people they are solving. But then it'd be good to kind of do that and reach out, and just one, for variety for me, and two, just to see if I can do it. So analyzing a sales page, it's always useful to analyze a sales page of something that is working incredibly well. You gain so much from it. But I thought maybe we could do that on a live, and I could give you my insights both in terms of how I do that, what I'm looking for, the questions I ask. Playing to your strengths, finding your unique strengths and making sure you're leveraging those into your business. There's that phrase, I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, just be yourself, everyone else is taken. I think he was the first person to say it anyway. But within that, there's an element of what are your strengths. And if you build a business around your strengths, and actually shout out to Rich Schaffer, he was the first person that reminded me and reinforced that for me over a decade ago now, that you got to play to your strengths. It's like, don't try and build a business by copying someone else whose strengths are very different to yours. So big shout out on that. So that's something we can talk about. We can talk about beliefs, how they shape people's behavior and how they limit people from the success that they want. I've seen tons of that over the couple of decades. I could talk about presentation skills, for example. Actually, I put something down here. This would be interesting. This would be more of an opportunity for me to think this through as anything else. But I put what we can apply from conspiracy theories to grow visibility, because there is no doubt that the misinformation that has been spread throughout this pandemic, a lot of it has gone viral. And it's like, what are the elements behind it that cause it to go viral? And that interests me. That interests me a lot because, of course, there must be lessons in there in terms of creating your own content and giving it the best chance to reach as wide an audience as possible. Because, even this morning I saw a post about, I think it was from Rob Moore, actually, the property guy, progressive guy. And he was talking about, the reach on Facebook being really limited and, putting out organic posts or putting out a lot of effort in it. You're getting very little return for your effort from the Facebook algorithm. However, that said, all the misinformation around vaccinations, around what's going on, about where the coronavirus came from, about why it's here, whether someone created it, whether it's a naturally occurring thing, whether it's even real, all of that stuff spread. And there's got to be a reason for that. That obviously ties in deeply with, you know, being human, the human condition, the human psyche. So that's all interesting to me as well. And I thought maybe we could explore that with a view to, well, not so that we can spread misinformation, of course, but with a view to, can you use that in your business? Can you use that to spread a message that you want to spread that would help you grow your business? And the big thing around that as well is like, how do you build a business for freedom? Because that's ultimately what it's about. Like, everybody wants freedom. Like, we want to serve, we want to help people, but not at the expense of, working 120 hours a week is not my idea of fun and never would be. So it's like, can we do all of that? And I would say we are living in a time more so than ever, because I know, like, if I look back over the last decade, and I was talking to my wife about this a couple of days ago, the frustrations that I've had have often been around not having the available technology. Like, it just didn't exist. Like today, for example, it's very easy for someone to run an automated webinar. The software for it, I mean, there's multiple companies that offer it. It's very easy to do. 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't. 10, 12 years ago, maybe more, 14 years ago, it was, if you had the ability to do that, that was a competitive edge. These days, it's not a competitive edge because anybody can do it. But again, what I would say is today, the technology that's available, I think more so than at any other time, one person sat in their bedroom during a pandemic can build a multiple six-figure income. And I'm not saying that to try and attract all the biz up people who want to jump on something. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it doesn't require work or learning some very specific skills. It does. What I am saying is one person sat in their bedroom can build a multiple six-figure business without having to hire tons of employees, without having to hire anybody, because the technology now exists. So that, I think, is exciting. I think that's something I'm exploring more. I mean, I think, there are certain things you do want to outsource. Certainly there's valid reasons for having virtual assistants, no doubt about it. And there is so much available today that you can do by learning certain set of skills, which are not difficult to learn, which are not difficult to execute, but which can give you the leverage you need so that if you didn't set out or ever had any desire to build a Facebook-sized business or even a business with 10 employees because you just didn't want the hassle, you can still achieve your financial goals and your freedom goals. And I think that's exciting. I think that makes us the best time to be alive because of that. All right, so a couple of things I could talk about. Tracking traffic, all of those things we're seeing at the moment, of course, that there's this whole thing going on with, Apple Mac are about to bring out the next release of their operating system. Within that, they're going to give people the option to not be tracked. In other words, to not have pixels, to not have anything going on. And ostensibly, the message on the surface that they're putting out is that all of this is to do with privacy, and they want to respect people's privacy. They want to respect their users' privacy. Yeah, okay, I'm calling bullshit on that one. What they're really saying is, hold on, we run our own operating system, which other companies, i.e. Google and Facebook, leverage. So in other words, we're giving Google and Facebook data which they sell to their advertisers they make profit from, and we're not happy about it. That's really what's going on, in my humble opinion. And it wouldn't surprise me. I think I've already seen rumors, if not actual confirmation, that at some point Apple are going to bring out their own advertising platform. Why wouldn't they? They've got an operating system. Why would they not have an advertising platform when, one, you can see the huge revenue that's generated from it? So that's been interesting. We could talk tracking. We could talk different ways of generating traffic. We could talk about the fact that the pixel is going away. So what does that mean for us as advertisers? It means a lot of things. It just also means, be a little bit smarter with how you do things. So we can talk about that. Other things. Yeah, I had to collect ideas. I collect a lot of ideas. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of listening to podcasts, and I collect ideas from all of it, which, although I might listen to a podcast on, for example, like Joe Rogan talking to, Alex, whatever he's called, the big conspiracy theorist guy, and yet get ideas that I can apply in my business. Like, how does that happen? Or listen to somebody talking about the real limits of human endurance and get ideas from that, both from my own training and again from my business. And so I do this and I just find ideas. Stories are a huge part of everything. They're not going away. Human beings are wired for stories. We can talk about how to write stories. I have recorded, and I will be doing more YouTube videos for my channel on stories. But I thought maybe it'd be useful to dig in a little deeper if you've got questions around how to create stories and how to leverage them, how to use stories for expert positioning, how to use stories to manage expectations, how to use stories to overcome any objections in advance of anybody having an objection, how to use stories to change beliefs, because that's an important part of serving our community, certainly in the world of providing information, which requires people to take action to get the result they want. The limits to people action are 99.999 times percentage wise down to the way they think and down to their own self-imposed limitations. And so using stories to break down those limitations, I think, is a valuable thing to be able to do. But books, I could give you notes on books I've been reading, thoughts I've been having. Currently reading The Courage to be Disliked, which is a great book on Adlerian psychology. So Freud and Adler were peers at the whatever the institute was called in Vienna when they were both alive, and they had two very different views. Freud was very much about everything depends on your past and the things that happen in your past, and they are the cause of why you are doing what you're doing today. Adler was kind of, that's rubbish, that's got nothing to do with it at all. And I certainly subscribe to the Adler approach. Having done neurolinguistic programming, that's certainly based on Adler's approach. And you can go further back and say that all of it is based on Stoicism anyway. It's all based on the Roman Stoics, the Greek Stoics. So we could look at that, but yes, certainly I can give you notes on the books that I'm reading. So all those kind of things. All right, so I have been rambling for a good half hour. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm just going to say, just leave me some comments. Let me know, what would you like to know more about? Maybe share with me some of your goals, aspirations, some of the things that you feel are getting in the way of you achieving the goals that you want to achieve. And I will put together some lives and share with you the best ways to solve those problems. I can pretty much guarantee there isn't a problem you're facing in terms of building a business or get it into shape or whatever it might be that I haven't seen or faced or dealt with. From my work in the early days where I worked purely as a coach, I know I saw pretty much every kind of challenge that humans faced in terms of being happy, more successful, more fulfilled. So I can certainly help you. And I think more than anything else, I have the certainty that I can manage any amount of uncertainty. And I have the tools and the ability to always find a solution. I pride myself on that. And so I'd like to leverage that. I'd like to leverage my brain in some ways to help you and serve you. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to know more about, and give me some love on this one. Apparently, I learned this from Molly Mahoney. I shouldn't say leave me a COMMENT because the Facebook algorithm might pick that up and doesn't like it. And I shouldn't say SHARE either, because again, it doesn't like you actually calling out your audience and asking them to do those particular things. But if you would like to do any of those things, then I'd be more than grateful. All right, I will hopefully talk to you again next Friday, probably around 10:15 in the morning, where I will share my thoughts again for the week, or I will come up with some ideas of what to share, and I will base that ideally on some of your feedback. All right. Talk to you again. Thanks for listening, and stay safe, stay happy, and stay rich.